Beyond the Paddle, powered by Best 4 nutritional supplements. Good, better, best for you and your family.
About some of the issues that are pertinent to South African canoeing. But one of the things we've realized about the show is that it has a great global audience, and we saw people tapping into the show from all over the world. I'm aware of a few that are tuning in right now. So to all of those international paddlers that are getting a taste of 1 hour of South African canoeing, it really is great to have you on board. We're streaming right now. Remember, if you want to catch it on your Mobi as well, from the link on the website, you can also link onto your Mobi site and catch it there. And shortly after the show, if any of your mates were unfortunate to miss the show, you can always watch it on the podcast as well. And the beauty about this show is that it also gives you, the paddler, a chance to interact with us and the guests that we've got in the studio. If you'd like to interact with us, the process is really simple. There are 3 different ways you can get hold of us. First of all, you could go to our Twitter account and simply use @BeyondThePaddle as part of your tweet, and we'll pick that up here. The second way you can do it is by going to the Facebook page, which is Best for Beyond the Paddle. And the third way to do it is by going to the website, which is simply www.beyondthepaddle.co.za. Whatever it is you would like us to bring up with the studio guests, simply send us the comments one of those 3 ways, and we'll do our level best to get through those in the hour at our disposal. It's also an opportunity now to say hi and welcome to our studio guest. And since we're based up in Joburg, the winter has arrived in Joburg. I can promise you somebody left the fridge door open here. It's a great pleasure to say hi and welcome to Jen. I'm going to call you Jen Hodson because it's a little issue in itself. Jen having just got married as well. First of all, from the paddling community, congratulations.
Thanks very much, Dave. It's been a very exciting time of life, I must say.
Are you still trading as Jen Hodson in the paddling community now? Are you Jen Teron?
Oh, well, maybe you blew my cover, because I was hoping to have a sneaky entry into the berg as Jen Teron and no one would notice. But no, I suppose I must become Jen Teron now.
Happy days, hey? Look at the screen right now. You got married up in the berg, didn't you?
I did, in my most favourite place in the world. The place is called Lake Navarone, but it's really the start of the Umzimkhulu River where I learned to paddle, so yeah. It was very special for me.
It looked like you and Jacques had a blast that day.
We did indeed, yeah. It was just incredible. Perfect day.
Well, cherish those memories, and you haven't signed your first check as Jen Hodson yet. If you haven't, you've done all that. It's
really
admin.
Difficult. It's really difficult to remember my new name, but it's great fun, yeah.
Good stuff. Are you training at the moment?
Sure, Dave. I'm trying to put some berg training in.
You're scaring people.
Yeah, I'm scared. You know, my body, it likes the short distance, so we'll see. I'm trying to do a few long paddles and not do from a 200-meter training program into the berg like I did last year. I think the berg will be much more enjoyable if I just put some hours in. I have the best coach for it in the world, Jacques. He knows all the tricks for berg training. But sure, we'll see if the body lasts. That's the biggest problem, I think. I mean, look, Mish Ere, she learned that last year.
Yeah.
An injury on the berg training is a big injury because of the mileage. You know, you're doing a 4-hour session and that little niggle becomes a problem. Yeah. So whether I'm on the start line or not, if my body holds out, I hope to be there, and it'll be very exciting to be racing again.
Watching your berg last year, you were clearly hurting. I mean, you hadn't done the miles by your own admission, but you were also strangely attracted to it all. I think that it's sort of a bug bit there, and if I saw that look on your face at the finish line, I guessed you were going to come back.
Sure, well, I swore I wouldn't for at least a few weeks. No, it's something to test your body like that and to put yourself into a really uncomfortable position and come out at the end of it having succeeded, which I think which I think most of the paddlers actually find. That's why we paddle, you know, because it doesn't matter whatever level you're at, you're always pushing yourself into a slightly uncomfortable place, and the reward is such a high. You know, if you get to the end and you've achieved that, even if it's just a finish or if it's a good place in the race or you've beaten your mate, that's what brings us back for every race. And what more than the berg to offer the biggest challenge that there is.
But now I'm hearing nutters talk about a non-stop berg in August.
No, they're on their own.
No, it's 220 k's non-stop.
I don't know how they're going to pedal in the dark, but I suppose it would be similar to the Devizes Westminster that they have in London, except that the Thames is a big flat river.
Yeah, exactly.
I suppose if you can get to the start of the dam by the time it gets dark. But imagine a northwesterly,
Oh,
sorry,
my word, yeah.
you know, the whole day for 24 hours is blowing in your face. It's tough.
But it's going to have elements of non-stop as well. You're going to have to stop and sleep somewhere.
You must, surely.
You can't push through for surely not.
I don't know.
I don't know if they'll have. Anyway, it boggles the mind.
Yeah, mine too.
Anyway,
Yeah.
welcome to Best 4 Beyond the Paddle. It's an opportunity for us to talk paddling, and once again, the association between Best 4 and the paddling community gets even stronger, and it's an opportunity for us to pay tribute to them as well, because let's face it, nobody's ever satisfied with mediocrity, underachieving, or even being second best. That's why Best 4 has developed a superior quality nutritional supplement range that allows you to achieve optimal health so you can perform at your peak and do whatever it is you do best. Best 4's omega-3 supplement range, which is 100% derived from krill oil, is available for both adults and baby development in expectant moms. The Best 4 allergy prevention range has been specifically formulated for the needs of kids as well as adults. It's now available at Dis-Chems and other leading pharmacies. Best 4 nutritional supplements are good, better, best for you and every member of your family. Jen, one of the reasons we dragged you into the studio today is that the Olympics is just around the corner. You've been through the mill. I think Beijing must have been one of the high points of your life.
Absolutely. Sure. Can I say that apart from my wedding day, which was the most perfect day of my life, Beijing was unbelievable. It was everything I could have ever dreamt of. I still to this day sometimes just think, was it a dream? Growing up in South Africa, it's actually quite amazing, because I say to my friends, don't you remember Barcelona? Don't you remember sitting and watching? No, we were playing outside. I had this this dream from when I was very small, and maybe it took a while to realize it, but to be in Beijing at the Olympic Games, highlight of life for sure.
You're also a part of a very special time in South African sprint canoeing, because I think what you girls achieved making that final in Beijing was an opportunity deluxe to capitalize on, and you're in a position now where you're not sprinting anymore, and you've got the experience to look back on what has been achieved. And you can also offer some really good advice about what we can do going forward, because we're basically at the end of a cycle now.
Yes.
Let's start off by looking at what Bridge achieved on the weekend. Bridge and Tiffany went off to Poznan in Poland to Lake Malta. The wind stopped blowing, thank goodness, because the wind can be horrible there, I believe. And then she raced her 500-meter final. Now, we've been lucky enough to get hold of the footage, so what we can do for a start is have a look at it, and then I want you to pick your brain about Bridge and her race and how good it was and how much we can take out of it. So let's kick back and relax and go to Lake Malta in Poznan in Poland, and it's the women's K1A final of the 500 meters.
Next race to come up, this is packed with stars. It's the kayak 500 meters for the women. Who do you like in this race?
Oh, there's definitely some amazing talent in this race. I think we're definitely looking at Nicole Reinhardt from Germany. She is the reigning gold medalist from last year in the 2011 World Championships. Ina Ozyapensko-Radomska in lane 6 from Ukraine. She is the reigning bronze medalist, but she happened to have won in the Beijing Olympics by a mere 4/1000ths of a second. And she beat Josefa Idem, who happens to not be in this particular race.
Here we go. Looking from down the top of your picture, we've got Slovenia, Canada, Great Britain, Sweden, Germany, Ukraine, Portugal, Denmark, and South Africa. On the start line, there's no messing around here. Ready, set, and go, and they're off.
Strong start, very strong start by all of these women.
This is going to take about 2 minutes of intense effort. Very close to calling the first 100 meters.
Looks like Henriette Engel Hansen has taken off, but we're getting a push now.
There's a close-up of Nicole Reinhardt, one of the great German champions who won many, many medals.
Henriette Engel Hansen is definitely going to make it very difficult for these ladies, especially because they're not expecting someone from the outside lanes to be in front. That's interesting. This is definitely an interesting race so far.
Close up on Henrietta, pushing it all the way, crossing the halfway mark.
And she is pulling far ahead. Nobody was necessarily expecting Henriette. This is an incredible race for her so far. And in second, it looks as if we have Teresa Portela from Portugal.
Really is all to play with.
That's Ina Osiapenko, Radomska.
And expect Rachel Cawthorne from the Great Britain in lane number 3. She always finishes well. Keep up with the rest. Approaching the last 100 meters, and there are 7 girls in a line here.
And we definitely see a pull ahead from lane 1. This is definitely an outside lane race. Spela Pomerenko-Janic from Slovakia trying to get ahead.
But coming into the last 50 meters, and it's going to be really close. It looks like Henriette Engel Hansen has done what she needs. Really close here.
This is going to be a hard race to call.
Oh, on the line, it looks, could well be Janic Pomerenko who hits it. Very close at the end.
We also had Germany, we had Ukraine, and we had Sweden all gunning for it. This was an incredible finish.
Well, there we go. There's confirmation of the winner. And what an incredible race. I mean, let's watch the slow-mo of the last couple hundred meters and we can dissect Bridget's race in a little bit more detail. First of all, start.
Okay, so it's so tricky. I thought Bridget's 200-meter racing that she's been doing over the last few years was going to help her start.
Yeah.
It's very tricky to take one race and to rate her progress. But she's leaving herself a little bit too much to do. So her start, it's the first race of the season. Let's hope she gets into it a bit more. She just needs that second that she's losing there. It really counts at the end. To be beaten by a second is half a boat length.
Yeah.
So if she can catch that second in the start, it's such a good thing to work on because.
And the way she smoked through that last 100 meters suggests she's got a kick that a lot of the other girls don't have.
Bridget has the scariest kick in the world. When you're next to her in a lane and she's trying to beat you and you're trying not to let her beat you because she will start slow. That is her race plan. That's how she's always raced.
Yeah.
Not start slow, sorry, let me rephrase that. Start slower. And she has a kick that we all envy. The amount of power. I mean, if 1,000 meters was the women's discipline at the Olympics, Bridget would be the favorite by far.
Yeah.
So if she can just catch that second on the start, then I'm so excited for her. It's very, very exciting.
Okay, we're talking sprint canoeing. If you want to stay in contact with us, if you have a question for Jen, remember there are 3 ways you can do it. Number 1, you can use the Twitter account, simply @BeyondThePaddle. We'll catch it that way. Number 2, you can send us a comment via the website, which is beyondthepaddle.co.za, or simply go to the Facebook page, which is Best for Beyond the Paddle. Pop your comment on there. We'll keep track of those questions and we'll do our level best to get through as many of those as we can. Now, before we get into any of the questions, Jen, we were lucky enough to catch up with Bridget after her race. The question is, she had a good regatta. She was desperate to race after having trained on her own through the whole of our summer and their winter. So let's go by Skype interview to Bridgette Hartley. This was actually done just before she left Poznan, and she's now in Duisburg in Germany preparing for the regatta on the weekend.
Well, it feels good, but at the same time, like, it's not really convincing, if I can say that, because this race was probably as strong as World Champs last year, but it can get stronger because the Hungarians were not racing. So it's like I can't actually almost sit and be like, yes, I'm in the right place, because I could perhaps have a bad semi-final next weekend and then I don't make an A final. My heat was almost like a final because I was racing gold and bronze medalist and 4th place finisher all in my heat on Friday. My semi-final, I had quite a few of the really good girls as well, and the racing was really tight. Like, I think I just managed to pull it together and I had a really good semi-final, and then I thought my final wasn't actually that good. But then when I spoke to Nando afterwards, he said it really was. I didn't realize that we finished so close. I just crossed the line and I was like, oh, great, that wasn't good. We all I crossed somewhere at the back, I thought. And then when I looked at the results, I was like, wow, I didn't realize we were so, it's anybody's game now still.
A lot of people were asking questions about what the racing was actually like in Poznan, because all we had was a chance to look at times. It's a different course, and you had headwind in some of those times.
Yeah, actually, we were pretty fortunate. I feel sorry for the European qualifiers because they had the usual Poznan weather, which was really, really bad. It was the strong tailwind from right up at the top of the course, which meant that all the waves built up and hit the bank on the front. You just kind of have to take a stroke in the trough and not the crest of the wave. It actually just got worse and worse from final day on Thursday. So I trained on Thursday and I was like, okay, well, I've done a session or two, so I'm actually prepared if the conditions are like this. And Friday morning came and the wind died and it changed to headwind. The sun came out and it was really beautiful conditions. And I love a headwind actually. It's my preferred wind direction. And so I was quite happy to be racing in a headwind because we're an outdoor sport. It's not necessarily all about times. People like to get world records and stuff, but I think in the sport of canoeing, you have to have favorable water temperature and favorable wind conditions or calm conditions to get those good times.
Well, Bridge, you need to know that everybody back home was following every second of every race you paddled over there, and it'll be the same in Germany. So good luck.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think it was really great. I almost feel like I wasn't disappointed with the weekend. I was happy, but I almost got the same amount of response as when I won a gold medal in 2009. And it was like, wow, that's really, really cool. It's so nice to know that there's so many people following the races and watching. And I'm sure for them it was probably more nerve-wracking watching my final than what it was for me racing, because they just going, come on, Bridgette, cross the line. And then like I did, but it was too close for them even maybe to see.
Beyond the Paddle, powered by Best for Nutritional Supplements.
There you go, Bridgette Hartley on the line from Europe, having talked about her first race. Your immediate reaction, having looked at the race and heard her interview?
Sure. I don't ever like to judge any results from Poland. It's a strange course. The bottom of the course for the last 200 meters is completely enclosed in concrete. So if there's any wind whatsoever, the rebound is unbelievable. I mean, we talk about Nagel Dam, those of you who've sprinted there, and the rebound coming off one wall. Now, can you imagine it coming off all three sides? So it's a very tricky course, and Bridgie says she loved the headwind,
yeah.
And it means that the wind isn't bouncing so much, the wave's not bouncing so much. So in that respect, they were very lucky. I know we've had races there before, if it is coming tailwind, where the C1 boats get flooded and people start falling out their boats. That's how bad it can be. So they did, it was okay Poland conditions, still makes it one of the worst conditions in the world. So I think, her results are very good on a very tricky course.
It's a brutal season. There are 2 World Cups that everybody's focusing on. The Hungarian girls weren't in Poland.
Yes.
They're all going to be in Duisburg, and a lot of them are still dicing for Olympic places. It's a bit of a mess.
It is a mess. Look, Bridgie can just focus on the Olympics, which I think is actually the ultimate position that you want your athlete to be in. I know there's a lot of teams use the World Cups before the Olympics to sort out positions, and the pressure is immense. But maybe it pushes you to a higher level, but sometimes I think it pushes you to a higher level at the wrong time of the season, because suddenly the focus is on trying to get to the Olympics. Whereas if you know you're going, your focus can be on delivering at the Olympics. So I think Bridget's in a very, very good position for that. The politics in sport, those Hungarian girls are racing till the very end before they'll know they're going to the Olympics. At the last moment. It's quite unbelievable, the pressure that's on them.
And some of the legends of the game are in that competition.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it means nothing what your name is in their country. Whoever's crossing the line at the time first is going to go. So it's very, very hard for them.
And of course now, I think Bridge would have elected to do the 200s and 500s at the Olympic, and TIFF has now been given that. It all happened in a sort of a snowball way, which wasn't ideal. I think everybody's accepted that. But from where we are now, we've got 2 girls going, no guys going. We need to make the most of that.
We do need to make the most of it. If you look at the South African team at the last, however many Olympics, the girls have outshone the guys a long way. We had Ruth Nokia, who perhaps you could say, okay, there was Ruth and there was Ellen. But then, Ruth had some brilliant results, Atlanta and Sydney, and making finals there. And then we had RK4 as well as Bridgie, so there was 5 of us in Beijing, and now we've got 2 women at the here in London. And I think it's something very special because our sport is a men's dominated sport. And sure, I really take my hats off for the women that have done so well.
Okay, let's call a spade. And the first of our questions has already come in. Thank you. This is one of the questions which has come in via the website. Simple question. Do you see a strategic plan, either from Canoeing South Africa or for the sprint discipline, to gear up for the next Olympic cycle? And it's a key question.
It's a key question, and I think, unfortunately, the athletes have been a bit let down in this last cycle. We had a lot of young guys coming through straight out of juniors, or 20, 21, 22 years old. I tried to make a small comeback, and I was the gran of the team, which is always very exciting. I only started my career at 24, and these guys are amped at the ages of 18 to 22. And the guys were let down. They need the best to compete with the best, and they were given boats and things, but they weren't given the right coaching system. And I think that in its end was what we really needed for those guys. Do they have a plan going forward? Whatever money we get, let's lump it together and get the best coach to come out here and coach our guys. We can beg, borrow and scrape to buy the air ticket, to make the hotel accommodation, whatever it is. And there's people willing to provide the kids with this money. I mean, there's look at this Best for what they've been doing for our paddlers. It's unbelievable, to have that support and the belief in you. If you have a sponsor like that, you feel more professional. You feel like you can achieve your goals. But no sponsor in the world can pay for a coach. Can't that be what Canoeing South Africa provides for us? Well,
it's interesting that Team Best for has just signed up their first two sprinters in Bridgette Harley and Tiffany Kruger, who are now full-time members of the team. And I think it's the first time that a sprinter has been a pro team member, where we traditionally are a marathon-based country.
Absolutely.
Which is exactly what you're talking about, isn't it? For you, yes. It would be headhunting a coach now.
Absolutely. And if you want it enough, wherever the coach is based, pack your bags, move there, join the squad, because if you want to be a sprinter and you want to make it to the Olympics, then that is life. Anything else is very on the sideline, and you have to give up a lot. So, you can see it in the way Bridgie's living. She lives in Austria for months at a time. She doesn't have her family around her supporting her. The harder, it's so hard, but it's so worth it. The rewards so outweigh those sacrifices. Look, I got a bit old to still to make it so hard. I think the Europeans have it a bit easier. I know, amazing. I think if you live there and you can get in your car and drive to the World Cup and then you drive home afterwards, it does make it easier. But there's no excuse. The Australians are doing unbelievably well. They live just as far away as we do. So.
Okay, keep the questions coming. Remember, it's very simple. Those 3 ways where you can get hold of us. We're going to take a break from the sprint course. One of the things that you're going to find in the TV show, which debuts on SuperSport on Tuesday next week, it's the 29th, I think, 8 p.m, SuperSport 6. One of the things you'll catch up with it's probably the exact opposite. And I think it's something that Jen, now that she's finished her sprinting, might want to get into a bit more, some serious extreme kayaking. Sure. The extreme kayakers travel around the world in this mystical search for what they call the river god. They want to find a river that is the ultimate river. Now have a look at some of these visuals, because in the next Beyond the Paddle show that you'll find on SuperSport, you'll join some of the world's best kayakers going out in search of the river god.
unbeteiligten Betrachter schaut Kajakfahren ja echt ziemlich verrückt aus, als wenn wir alle lebensmüde wären. Und wir Kajakfahrer reden schon vom kalkulierten Risiko. Das heißt, es wird genau geplant und angeschaut, wie man einen Wasserfall fahren möchte.
Proper extreme kayaking, and during the coming months we're also going to be catching up with some of the local extreme kayakers and bring you some footage of what those guys are up to. But it really does get your pulses racing. Quick idea of how you can stay in touch with us right now. Questions please via Twitter at Beyond the Paddle. Best for Beyond the Paddle is the name of the Facebook page. There are no spaces in that if you go and look for it on Facebook, or you can simply go online, which is where most people are watching this right now. If you go to the comments page on beyondthepaddle.co.za, you'll be able to catch up with us and send your questions. And the question's still busy coming in. We're talking about the future of South African canoeing, Jen. Question that's come in from Yako here. Thank you, Yako, via Twitter. Surely we should have headhunted our coach for the next 4-year cycles now. Aren't the European countries already signing up coaches before the Olympics?
Absolutely. Look, if you look at the countries like England and Denmark and that, they don't look at 4-year cycles, they look at 8-year cycles and even longer. So what these British athletes have been preparing for hasn't been just for the last 4 years, it's been for the last 8 years. That's what we need to get around. You know, we work in 2-year cycles here, and we sort of, we can't see the long-term picture. A guy that's 22, 8 years seems a lifetime to him, but it's really not. He must be thinking, in 8 years I want a gold medal. 4 years I want to go to the Olympics to have some experience and hopefully make a final or be in the B final. But we do need our coaches now. And yes, we need them at grassroots level as well, but I think we've got that covered. We've got the Craig Mustards, we've got guys like that at that level. We need the best coach we can afford. So, and he must be working with sports science, he must be on top of his game, must have that experience.
The international community looks at us and our thriving river marathon community and this huge base we've got to work on, and they're telling us we should be at an unnatural advantage when it comes to producing top-end sprinters.
They're sprinting so hard. You know, you get such a reward, even if it's not a competitive reward, just for tripping down the Umzimkhulu over the December holidays. Yeah. And now you tell a guy who can go and shoot big rapids, play on the Umkamas, be on the Berg River in the most beautiful surroundings, that he can only race on flat water up and down, and I think it's a disadvantage. You know, it's all the Hungarians know is their goals, the Olympics, but for that Lati, Andrew Burkett, he wants to win the doozy. It's an adventure as well as a race. Sure, it's a difficult one. We do have a huge pool of talent, but I think a young guy or even young girls, they dream is the adventure as well as the competition.
Another question coming in for you from Sarah. Are you sad that Ruby, obviously referring to Sean Rubenstein and Mike Arthur, didn't make it?
I'm heartbroken for them. They put everything in, and they chose an incredibly difficult race to race. That K2 200. You know, if there's just one of you in the boat and you're racing at 200 meters and you miss half a stroke, you're out. With two of you coordinating and being absolutely together in that boat, it's all about rhythm. We always used to laugh and say, if you can't dance, you can't paddle a team boat. You know, you've got to be perfect together, and it's such a difficult race that they chose. But hats off to them. I mean, wow, you know, they did achieve. You know, they were making finals, the best in the world. Sure, it's so disappointing.
Another question coming in saying, why doesn't Bridgette and Tiff paddle a K2 for the Olympics? We've got 2 athletes into the games.
It would be very silly for Bridge to take her focus off her K1. It's all very well during the regatta is probably not a problem. Bridge is so fit, it's unbelievable. She'll easily handle the number of races. If she had to paddle 500, so she'll easily handle it. You know, every bit counts. The problem is the training in the K2. you don't jump into a K2 and paddle down the course. You
Yeah.
spend hours and hours and hours at it. I learned that with the K4. You really have to put the work in. And if you take your foot off the pedal on your K1 to put it into the team boat, it can have advantages and disadvantages, but perhaps the work that Tiff still needs to do, Bridge has done. So you would be disadvantaging Bridge, and I think it's actually better the way it is.
Okay. Well, keep the questions coming in. There's some big questions we're going to ask. I want to ask you about why we didn't keep a K4 going the other side of Beijing, because you got to such lofty heights. But while we're talking about, you said you were the grand of the sprint team, I want to talk about one of the real grandpas of world paddling, because at 49 years old, Oscar Chalupsky has just gone down to the Molokai and won it for the 12th time. And it not as if it was a massive downwind that would have favored people that are good at it. It was proper hard work. The wind didn't arrive as everybody expected. And Oscar at 49 has won it. And he's won it from Clint Robinson. How did you react when you heard that?
Well, it's absolutely phenomenal. I mean, he really is an inspiration, because if you sort of, the lighties aren't going to understand this, but even when you're 32, you're just not recovering the same anymore. So if you can do it at 49, then no one has an excuse. Look, the guy is an unbelievable athlete, and I think his head is the strongest part about him.
Yeah.
So for him to win that race for the 12th time, I don't think, that can hardly be matched on many races in the world. It is such a difficult race. It's so long, and I really, it's amazing. And I think his skills is really where it comes through. You can read any small run, he was joking, we had the World Altitude Championships, Chalupsky Championships up here in Amsterdam, and good for them, Oscar and him, and they came up and they raced there, and Oscar said no problem. They had little speedboats to create waves. He was finding those runs. It was the Gauteng paddlers were just trying to stay stable in their boats, so he's a phenomenal man.
Well, Oscar's on his way back to South Africa at the moment. We caught up with him in his villa on the beach at Molokai, soaking up the glory after having won it. So here's Oscar by Skype from Hawaii.
Can you tell us how the race went?
Well, I mean, I went off fairly hard with the double, and Matt and I were there, and then I thought, no, that's a bit too hard. So I backed off, and then I just conserved, and then I got caught up in the escort boat wakes, and it took me a while to go through the escort boats and actually get a clear run of waves. And what happened is I just picked them off. I was lying in 5th or 6th, and my escort, one of my escort boat personnel said, no, you got no chance to win. And the other one said, no, he's going to pick them all off. He's going to win. And then that's exactly what happened. I went slowly through the field and picked off, and then the last person I overtook was Dean at about 5 kilometers for the end, and then put the hammer down, and believing me, you are hurting big time. And then I came in on the flat section, I looked around and I thought, oh, Dean, there's no problem with Dean. When I turned around, it was Clint Robinson flying to try and catch me, and then when I saw him there, I had to put down the hammer and managed to pip him by 10 or 15 seconds.
It also wasn't ideal conditions for you. You were possibly hoping for a bit more. They were talking about 20, 25 knots, which it wasn't on the day.
I mean, the winds and the coconuts and Molokai were howling, and then we got out there, it just stayed the same amount. There was like a little bit of chop, and there's at no time did I actually surf a run like I would do in South Africa, going down steep runs. I mean, it was like basically 1 or 2 strokes down and paddling flat out most of the way. So there wasn't a lot of rest in there, and so it made it very tough. I mean, it probably was 20 kilometers. In fact, it was the same speed as we were paddling, because when we went downwind and with the wind, you got really hot because you were on the same speed as the wind.
Isn't this what makes this sport so unique? The fact that you can combine conditioning and experience to whip somebody who's 20 years younger than you.
As I say, it's not all brute force and brawn. It's brain and brawn put together, and experience. I mean, and that's why people are still doing it. I mean, the biggest age group category in this race was the over 50s again. So it shows you people love doing the sport, because you can be going at 56 kilometers an hour, and if you have big winds, you can average 20 kilometers an hour easily.
Now, I believe your brother has to eat his underrods.
Oh, that's going to be a classic.
So can you win this at 50?
I think it'll be quite a good goal and quite a good achievement. And if I carry on training, then I'm sure I'll get in better shape, even better than now. Because I mean, I still think I've got another 15 or 20%, but you never know. It's tough. The opposition doesn't get easier, and more people want to knock you off your block. And so it is tough. I mean, it's not as tough as I said when I dedicated the race to Taryn Dickinson. I don't know if you know Gavin Dickinson. His wife's got motor neuron, and he he said, no, you've got to dedicate this race to Taryn Dickinson and Hannah. I don't know, my daughter who's lost all the weight. So the two girls are dedicated that victory because it was fantastic coming down the straight and realizing that that's inspirational. Hannah lost, I think, 30 kilos and it's looking fantastic. And Taryn is fighting a serious battle with motor neurons. So it also gives you a bit more extra inspiration. And she shed a tear when she heard, so she was very excited.
I guess the lesson that Matt learnt was that this race isn't all just about speed and endurance. There's a hell of a lot of experience and factors that you can't necessarily train for that you've got to take into account.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I was doing, and I always offer my services, to train, and I spend a lot of time out there wearing free laser clothing and doing 50k paddles. I did a lot of them, Unlike Matthew, didn't do that. So
he also said some extremely flattering things about you and said it was possibly one of the most remarkable sporting achievements he'd ever seen.
Yeah, no, when a 49-year-old overtakes you, it's not nice, but also you respect because he was going out flat out, and I thought he had a good chance of winning. And he wasn't as if he had dedicated his last 6 months to win this race, so he realized how tough it is.
For the surf ski paddlers back home, 50Ks is no shabby distance to go on a ski. Is it a race that everybody has to do at some stage in their life?
Yeah, it's definitely on the bucket list. This year there were half the field was first timers, so the race just gets more and more prestigious, and people want to put it on the bucket list, but it's not an easy race to finish. It is really tough. A lot of people are doing 5 hours. It's a long way, hard, and it's hot, and people get seasick, and going between these two islands is something special about it.
Beyond the Paddle, powered by Best 4 nutritional supplements.
It's pretty inspirational, Jen, at 49, that he's still doing what he's doing.
Absolutely, yeah. Good. It's amazing, and I hope he wins a few more.
Well, if you can do it at 50, and if it's lucky 13, and if he can get his brother to eat another pair of underpants, it'll be a special day in the Chalupsky household.
I'm sure.
Okay, your questions are still coming in. We've got 15-20 minutes to go in the show, and some good questions are coming in. Stuart in Durban comes up with a good point. Why are the sprint and marathon disciplines kept separate in South Africa? Why not combine them and get the best paddlers together into an elite squad with a top coach?
Okay. I know overseas, look, the European countries concentrate on the Olympic Games. Okay, it's the ultimate in sport for them. While we put a lot of importance onto rugby and cricket and soccer in this country, those countries like Germany and Hungary, an Olympic gold medal is all that counts. So, not taking away from our marathon paddlers, the Olympic Games is the highlight of an athlete's career, in that if you're overseas and you can't make the sprint team, you'll paddle marathon.
Yeah.
It's a different athlete, definitely. So, look, you don't find the guys that are running 10,000 meters on the track competing with the guys that are running an 800, which is equivalent to a 500 meter sprint paddling. It's a very different athlete. So the training is a bit different. However, Sean Rubinstein won the world marathon champs coming from a sprint background. So if it depends. Why? I think the guys must make sprints their priority if they want to sprint. I think the squad must be focused on the sprinting discipline. But if you're a marathon paddler, you want to win world marathon champs, join the squad. There should be no one should be stopping you from joining in. And if your goal is different, it'll just mean that at a certain time of year, instead of doing the speed work required for an April World Championship event, you will then still need to be pushing through for an October-based, or whenever it is, September-based marathon. So the problem is that you're peaking at different times, and but the base season, sure, join all together. And
so could it be one elite coach that's maybe overseeing the marathon squad going in one direction, as you're saying, and the sprinters focusing at a different time of year?
I think he can write a program. I don't think he can monitor the athletes at that level.
Okay, interesting times. Keep the questions coming. Remember the 3 ways to do it. You can use us by Twitter, by Facebook, or simply by going to the website and posting a comment. My guest in the studio, Jen Hodson, who is at the Olympics for South Africa and is training for a berg and perhaps a non-stop berg a little bit later in the year. Well, keep the questions coming. Now, one of the things we do in the show, is we review a product. Now, when you see the show next Tuesday, you'll see we go back to a surf ski because there's a brand new ski which is being reviewed. And there's also an opportunity for you to win one of those skis. Now, the ski being reviewed is one of the focuses which has been developed by Custom Kayaks. And it's one of those very happy instances where somebody's taken a product that works and they've gone and refined it even further. And simply by trying to make it a slimmer and a trimmer ski, they've taken some of the top and bottom off the waterline. They've made it slimmer. They've dropped the seat slightly, and it's become quicker and more stable. It's a remarkable boat. So if you'd like to find out more, have a look at the full review when it gets broadcast on the Supersports show on Tuesday night. Custom Kayaks are giving one away right now, and if you'd like to find out now how you could get your name into that draw, you've got about 3 or 4 weeks, I think, to get your name into that draw. Simply go to beyondthepaddle.co.za and follow the links to the competition page, and that will explain how you can enter the competition and maybe become a winner of one of those brand new focuses. It's a super boat, and it's aimed plumb at that intermediate market where, to be honest, there aren't that many boats. So find out more about the Focus by going to beyondthepaddle.co.za. And also find out about the lucky man from Pretoria who was the winner of the Jacana that we gave away in the previous one. So you have an opportunity to enter there. It's via the website only. So pop into beyondthepaddle.co.za. Jen, questions still coming in. SA Schools is probably our most popular event for juniors. How do we keep juniors to paddle as under 23s and seniors in sprinting?
Sure, it's a huge question. How do we? It's a very good question. There need to be incentives. So it's no good training for a whole year and you race one event, SA Champs, and that's your event for the whole year. I think to build the sport of sprinting, we need to have a few more goals for those paddlers. The problem is it's so expensive to fly to Europe. So if there isn't the funding, how do the youngsters go? And sure, I mean, if their parents aren't able to put up the money for the flight, it's a very tricky situation. So if they could go over, there's so many regattas in Europe happening all the time. I mean, the Hungarian National Championships is a huge event with like 5, 6, 7 heats for each race, you know. If there's incentives to race and every time you race you get better, that's the only way to develop it. So from a junior level, the kids are coming in and they're racing at SA Schools, but they're also racing marathon and they're racing the 50 miler and they're racing the doozy, which is, I fully agree, they must do everything, and they must also play hockey and rugby and everything else as well as a junior at a junior level. I think it's very important to not become too focused too soon, because if you want to go to the Olympics, it's a long journey. You know, it's going to take you 6, 8 years of training. If you're 16-year-old and you're already that focused, you're going to have a battle to keep mentally focused in, you know, for that length of time. So at under 23 level, we must look at a regatta. Where can we send the guys? Can we go and join a regatta in Europe somewhere? There must be an under 23 sort of, not World Cups, but some sort of system. You know, there's so many different places to see, and every time you travel overseas, your
and you don't think we can develop it at home?
We can, but let's have a series in Gauteng, a series in Cape, and a series in Natal, and travel each one and maybe raise some money, you know, as prize incentives. So if you are racing your under 23 series and there's 3 of them, you know, the best person of the 3 series wins some money, and just there has to be some more motivation, some more incentives to keep the guys in pursuit.
Well, we're looking at some clips of the SA Schools at the moment that were held up at Roodeplaat. A fantastic event and some real talent coming through. A lot of urgency. What's curious about these events is you'll see some people with beautiful imported 50,000 Rand boats racing competitively with people who've got converted marathon boats. So you'll find a full breakdown of SA Schools on the Supersport show, which airs next Tuesday night, where we have a look at SA Schools and hopefully try and make it a priority. But the way African canoeing is going, I saw Ali got a medal for Africa in the 500 meters. That's a massive event for African canoeing. Surely we as African countries need to start looking at developing an internal series rather than having to hit the plane to Europe.
We must. It's very important. It's actually funny because when was it? 2002. I'm not even sure when it was, but the first ever Africa Champs was held at Nagle Dam. And Kirsten Oliver and a few of us, Laurel Utley, we were trying to raise money to go to the student games. So we decided, let's cater for this event, and off we went. And there must have been 20 of us all together, and we stayed down at the dam there, and we taught a couple of the guys to paddle. They arrived at the champs and they couldn't really balance their boats yet.
Yeah.
These same guys, Tony Lespoor for the Seychelles, this is his third Olympics coming up, and we helped him. We taught him some technique on that very first event. So Africa paddling is very exciting because it has taken 10 years to get a guy who couldn't, none of the countries paddled yet, to this unbelievable results that we've been seeing. And I think there'll be incentive for the local athletes if we could have a Southern Africa thing, and later, and they must, the northern countries have a Northern Africa thing, and then we combine it, and I mean, that is the way to go eventually.
And it's the same with slalom, with Benjamin Bopedi for Togo getting a medal for Africa.
Absolutely.
We've got to start looking to ourselves to raise the level.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, it's exciting times. Well, Jen got all excited about the extreme kayaking, so we're going to tease you and show you a little bit more. She's about to make a public commitment that you're going to see her in a kayak going down some really rough water very shortly, which is the exact opposite. So Tuesday night on Supersport, you'll be able to catch up with this incredible bit of footage, because every year at the river in Austria in Ötztal, they have a race down a sprint section of river, which is incredibly steep, incredibly technical, but they decide the extreme kayaking world champion. And as much as we love to beat the All Blacks at rugby, it's been won by a Kiwi for the last 2 years. Have a look. And the Kiwis win again. Hopefully that's not a bad omen going into the Tri-Nations. Does that inspire you?
No, it scares me. It's absolutely brilliant, and we have the talents in this country to compete there too. There's been guys that have been over. I know Craig and Mark Wilmot were over in Scotland the one time, and they were big, boring, stealing kits, and they were the only ones there without dry jackets. And they shivered their way down the course and did so well. They were invited to a World Championship or a World Cup or something in Switzerland.
Yeah.
Craig made the final. Our guys are as good as those guys. But I don't want to get in that cold water. I think I'll stick to South African rivers.
It's possibly a good time just to say a word about Graham Anderson as well, because that's his game. He's magnificent at it. He's loved and respected in the community. And Graham, for those of you that don't know it, is really battling in intensive care. They've got him in a deeply induced coma as he battles with rabies. Having picked up a dog on his farm that he just wanted to tend, he picked up rabies, and every paddler has got our fingers crossed and hopes and prayers go to Graham and his family. It's a critical week for him, so let's really hope he comes good. But he's also one of the kingpins in that community. He
is, and he's performed on a world stage and really outperformed any hopes that he had. He's lived his life so well. We're thinking about him all the time, and the support is unbelievable, and this is the fight of his life, and I think if anyone can pull through, he can do it. Let's just hope for the best.
So we'll certainly keep our fingers crossed. Time is escaping us, and thank you once again for all your involvement. One of the things we do is offer an opportunity for paddlers to submit their own bits of GoPro footage. Now, when you see the show on Supersport on Tuesday night, you'll find 2 clips. One of them is going to be an edit of an incredible bit of footage of Durban ski boat fisherman. He's on a fishing ski, Scott Hunter, heading out and finding a whale trapped in the nets off Macleod, and how he comes up against this massive whale and gradually cuts it free until it can swim. He single-handedly saves the whale's life. It's mind-blowing. Please go and have a look at it. But here's one that I'm sure will raise a chuckle, because now picture the scene. You're sitting on your canoe going fishing. This actually comes from a fisherman in the USA. And while you're busy fishing on this beautiful calm bit of river, you strike up a friendship with some apparently friendly geese. Have a look at this.
Things are gonna get hooked before it's all said and done. They keep acting dumb like this.
You gotta admit that's all bad.
It's unbelievable.
I think he had worked them out. I think he decided that they were the perfect company for the day, and he, for a fatal moment, let them get behind his back.
No, absolutely. I don't know how cold that water was, but I'm very surprised.
Yeah, geese 1, paddler nil, no extra time required. If you have got a bit of GoPro footage, we just had some super GoPro footage submitted of some Gauteng paddlers riding the Yexkay when it was heaving at 90 plus cubics, and these guys getting munched in a massive hole. We'll hopefully bring you that in weeks to come. But if you do have a bit of GoPro footage, it can be anything. It can be a particularly serene moment, a really dramatic moment, or just a special moment that you've captured out paddling on your GoPro. Just go to the website beyondthepaddle.co.za or the Facebook page, which is the best way to do it. You upload your clip to YouTube and then just link it onto the Facebook page, and then we'll get in touch with you if you're able to get it onto the show. So, Jen, your plans for the rest of the year? I mean, I know you talked about a Berg, and we've now, your eyes fired up when we saw the sprinting again.
Yeah, there's a small part of me very jealous of the girls. It would have been lovely to be there again. The commitments, I just found it too big for me. I really need to get on with life and do a few more new things. So we'll see. Have to start earning a bit of money and join the real world. I've managed to avoid it for long enough now, and so we'll see where the year takes us.
Well, answer this question. Here's one that's come in from Peter via the Facebook page. Why didn't the K4 continue after Beijing? Nikki, we know, was going to become a mom, and she's loving doing that at the moment.
Nix couldn't wait to have babies, so we had to say, no, wait, Nix, just a bit longer. It's an incredibly emotional time, the whole Olympic Games. Every day you're living with this incredible pressure on you, and you only realize it when it's finished and the pressure lifts, and you think, phew, we were exhausted. It wasn't an easy time for us. We were away from home for months on end, living in Hungary. It got better towards the end with more funding, but we were living under really hard conditions in the cheapest places that we could find. after 3 or 4 years of that, emotionally we were very exhausted and we needed a break. And unfortunately, a break like that in a team boat, we moved on to onto new things. I think it is a pity. I think we were a bit old. I think if we had started 4 years before that, it would have been incredible. We would then have reached Beijing at our absolute peaks. But it was sad that we lost the momentum, and yeah, I suppose opportunities that we missed. Sure.
Yeah, and you didn't realize it at the time, but you almost had a responsibility because you had done so much for South African sprinting. You had created a new platform, which now we can look back 4 years later and say we didn't take full advantage of.
We didn't, and it is a huge pity. We needed a coach. We needed a bit more support. We needed to say, okay, whoever wants to carry on, this is the way we're going to do it. It didn't happen like that, and it is a wasted opportunity. Except that so many guys entered the system at that time. Well, sheesh, if the girls can do it,
yeah,
I'm sure we can. I mean, we had a huge squad go over to those first 3 World Cups after the Olympics, and unfortunately, it hasn't panned out that they made it to the games. Look, it isn't easy. I know that there might have been some people out there saying, sheesh, well, if those girls could do it, how hard can it be, you know? The guys have proved how hard it can be. Look at Sean and Mike this time. They didn't make it. Look at Nick Stubbs. They've put in everything they've got, and that is how hard it is to get to the Olympic Games. It is the pinnacle of a sporting achievement, and we worked so hard to get there. So.
Well, as Travis Wilkinson said to us when he was on the show, the only way to do it is to try and get constructively involved, and maybe getting onto a committee, getting hold of a regional rep and trying to develop that, because it's got to start somewhere and we need to develop some more critical momentum.
We do.
Our clock has unfortunately beaten us. We were just starting to have fun. What we are going to do, looking ahead to our next show, the start of the surf ski series has been phenomenal. One of the biggest surf ski series races ever was the first race. It was the grading race. And 400 odd paddlers, a magnificent day down in Durban. This is me getting smoked by a wave. Not good. I cannot time sets, I'm afraid. I'm challenged when it comes to timing sets. But 400 odd boats for the first race of the Discovery Best 4 Surf Ski Series. A magnificent start to the series, and it's continued like that. So for the surf ski paddlers, it's a real treat to be able to get onto the water, and in such good company and in such quality paddlers. Hank McGregor is going to be in the setup now. Matt Bowman's going to be, and Oscar Chalupsky will probably have to try and prove a point to the to the younger paddlers. But it's certainly a very, very exciting stage. Now, since we're talking about surf ski, the one man who has made a name for himself as a surf ski paddler, as well as something of a marathon paddler, because he's the current world marathon champion, is Hank McGregor. Now, Hank McGregor, we know for his talents. We've seen him go fast. We've seen him go fast in a sprint boat. I'm sad we didn't get more out of Hank as a sprinter,
yes,
because I think he was at that time in his career, it just didn't work out. Things
yes,
were stuck against him. He's a magnificent river paddler. He is an unbelievable flatwater marathoner. But we're going to show you a little bit of talent that Hank McGregor has, which I don't think many people have seen at all. I think if you spend so much time in a twitchy little marathon boat, you become so comfortable with the boat. Have a look. This is what Hank can get up to with a little bit of time on his hands. Now, this is the boat that he won the World Marathon Champions in. It's super skinny, 1 foot out. He's balancing with 1 foot. And as if that isn't enough, he's now doing it with a paddle in one hand. Please don't try this at home. It's going to lead to surgery or a short visit to the hospital. But have a look at what the man is capable of doing. Give him a little bit of music from the bank, and then this sort of thing is likely to happen as well. The boat that he won the World Marathon Champs in, he's now 180 degrees backwards, and he's probably going to pull a 180 back in the forward direction again. I must concede he's wobbling a bit though, but there are not many paddlers in the world that will be able to stay in their boat like that. There he is now, square. That's the 360. He's completed the 360. Little paddle stroke to brace, and he's back in the boat.
Oh, Hank, it's brilliant. It is the skills that the guys have got. It's rather unbelievable.
Have you ever done that in your
Oh, no, I wouldn't stand a chance.
Jen, it's been a treat. Thank you for the time. It really has been a great, great pleasure. Before we do anything else, just a big thank you to the Best 4 team. And talking about the Best 4 product, which the paddling community is now getting very familiar with. Let's face it, nobody is ever satisfied with mediocrity, underachieving or second best. That's why Best 4 has developed a superior quality nutritional supplement range that helps you achieve optimal health so you can perform at your peak and do whatever it is that you do best. Best 4's omega-3 supplement range, which is 100% derived from krill oil, is available for both adults and baby development in expectant moms. Their Best 4 allergy prevention range has been specifically formulated for the needs of children as well as adults. It's now available at Dis-Chem and many other leading pharmacies. Best 4 nutritional supplements are good, better, best for you and every member of the family. Jen, thank you for the time. I'm
Thanks,
looking forward to seeing you on a berg. I hope you can get yourself into top condition for that and you can have a thoroughly enjoyable berg.
Thanks.
I have a feeling it might be quite a competitive berg as well.
I think so, and I hope we are lucky with the weather, and I hope it floods.
Well, I hope Gauteng is kind to you this winter as you train, because it's particularly hard for you doing 4-hour sessions through the Gauteng winter.
Absolutely. No, those frosty mornings on the ball, but they're good fun.
Brilliant. It's been a treat having you in the studio. And remember, Best 4 Beyond the Paddle, the Supersport edition, is premiering at the Supersport channel, Supersport 6, and that's all happening at 8 p.m. next Tuesday night. That's the 29th. So once again, thank you for joining us. To the paddlers from all around the world that have been following it, tell your mates if they've missed it, they can follow the podcast of the show, which will be uploaded fairly shortly at www.beyondthepaddle.co.za. But until next time, from Jen Hodson, Jen Teron, and myself, we'll catch you on the water.
Beyond the Paddle, powered by Best 4 nutritional supplements.